Right? There's two different things we buy. Number one, there's the stuff that we are always going to buy, even if we've got to spend our savings, even if we have to borrow money, even if we have to mug a granny, whatever. Yeah. Even if we have to do anything to pay for it, we are still going to spend it. Yeah. So buy no matter what, that sort of stuff, is called autonomous consumption. It doesn't matter if we made any money this week. We are still going to buy that stuff. Yeah. You can sack me, but I'm still going to buy this stuff no matter what I have to do to get it. So stuff like bread, petrol, you need a certain amount to get to work, and cigarettes for smokers. Yeah. And cigarettes are interesting, number one, because they're bad, and number two, because the amount that people are going to smoke, it's not necessarily going to go up by all that much if they make more money. Yeah. So if someone is a smoker, and they make $40,000 a year, if their income goes up to $200,000 a year, they're not going to start smoking 8 packs a day just because their income went up, right? So they're not going to consume more of that good as their income goes up. So this spending is it's not affected by your income. This is spending you're going to do even if you have no income, even if you have $1 million. This is what you're going to spend on these things, right? It's kind of rough, and it's a big assumption, yeah. Because obviously you're going to spend more on food as you get richer, because you're going to buy more expensive food. Yeah, you're going to buy better petrol, yeah, or you're going to buy a bigger car that's going to consume more petrol. But forget all that. We're in economics now. Welcome to Neverland. Part 2 is the stuff that we spend based on how much we earn. Right, the amount of money that we spend based on how much we made this week. So any buying that's based on why, that's based on our income, that has anything to do with our income, is called induced consumption. It's induced by our income. And we kind of work this out by knowing the approximate percentage of our income that we spend. And it's called the marginal propensity to consume, or MPC. It's a terrible name, marginal propensity to consume. It's a real mouthful. You can just say MPC. The symbol for it is a little c. Yeah. So now our consumption function. So that mathematical formula that explains how we spend our money. How we explain C looks like this. So that big C, it's really split up into two parts. The total consumption, which is the big C, is made up of, number one, our autonomous consumption, which is a C with a little 0 near it, and we'll explain that in a sec. And part two, that fraction, or that percentage, that MPC, that little c, multiplied by our income, right? We'll explain a bit more detail here. So this is our autonomous consumption. That's C with a little 0, and it makes sense because this is the amount of C, consumption, this is the amount of consumption spending we do even where our income is 0. Yeah, so it's a C with a little 0. At our 0 point of income, we're still going to spend this much. So let's say $200. Let's say you're going to spend $200 every week, whether you have the money or not. You're going to keep spending it, yeah? Even if you don't have it. So let's replace it, right? So if you just follow that equation down, let's replace that C with a little 0 there by the number 200. Yeah, $200. Yeah. Let's work on the other side. This is the marginal propensity to consume, the MPC. So that little c, it means MPC. It's the fraction of our income that we spend. So once, forgetting that $200 that we just spent anyway, if we get $1 of income, what fraction of that dollar are we going to spend, and how much are we going to save? Right? So if your MPC was 0.95 and you made $1 in income, you'd spend 95 cents of your income. Yeah. 0.95 is a decimal for 95%. And in some countries, it's like that. Yeah. So here it is. Our consumption function is this. Let's assume our consumption function is this. We're going to spend $200 no matter what, even if we don't have any income. But if we do make any income, we're going to spend 95% of that income. Yeah? And a lot of people live like this, right? They're called teenagers. The final thing is that working out the formula for the MPC. You know, it's something you don't really need to know. You can pause it and look at it if you want. It's just, it basically means delta C over delta Y means if we make an extra dollar in income, what's the change in consumption going to be? This is the important stuff. This graph. Because graphs always show that you know what you're talking about somehow. So we start off with 2 lines, but that third line is a little different to what we usually do with our other things. It's called the 45-degree line. It's where our consumption is equal to our income. Right? So if you follow anywhere on that line, and you go and you just trace it back across to consumption, so you trace it back to 100, if you trace it down to income, it'll also be 100. Yeah, it's a 45-degree line. Every point, it's going to be equal. C is going to be equal to Y. So it's a 45-degree line. Yeah, and it comes in handy in a sec. This is our consumption function. This is C. Yeah, that's the line of C. So if you do maths and you're graphing lines, yeah, you can see it there. C equals 200 plus 0.595 of Y. Right? So C starts at 200, no matter what our income is. So you can see where on the bottom there, the red 200, you are spending $200 even though income is 0. We haven't moved along the income line at all, but we are still spending $200. Right? So this person spends $200, and then every dollar that he gets after that, he spends 95 cents of it. Right? So it takes him up to $4,000 of income to get to the break-even point, to get to the point where he's not dis-saving anymore. Right? Dis-saving is the opposite of saving, apparently. I don't think it's in the dictionary, but dis-saving is the opposite of saving. So up until this guy makes $4,000, he is not saving a cent. In fact, he is spending any savings he already had, right? Or he's borrowing money. Yeah, he's stealing money. He's doing something because he is spending money that he doesn't have. Right? So that's red. That's a I count that as a bad color. But on the other side is green. Everything up to that break-even point is green. Now, if you're wondering why it took this guy up to $4,000 of income to even start saving, to even break even, right? To even not be, losing money, hemorrhaging money, right? It took him up to $4,000 because, first of all, he started at 200, but most people would. Most people would have an autonomous spending level of about that much. You got to buy food and stuff. But the main problem that he had was that he's spending 95% of every cent that he makes. Right? So if you only save 5 cents in every dollar, if you only save $5 out of every 100, it would take you a long time. And you can probably do the maths on that. It was $5 out of every 100, getting up to 4,000 to get down, $200. It makes sense, right? So that's a break-even point. And visually, it's easy to tell because it's where it meets that C equals Y line. Because C does equal Y. That's the only point along that consumption function where C equals Y. If you extended it out, they would just go in opposite directions, right? So that break-even point is where the consumption function meets that 45-degree line. Yeah. Just to save $300, this guy needs to make $10,000 in income.